I do remember actually in one of the Jefferson enrollment balancing comments, a gentleman said, you know, I actually, and I don't know if he works with you all, I actually do public processes for PSU, and I gotta say, you're not doing it very well. I could help. So here PSU is.
Is a recognition that there are some things that we in Portland Public Schools haven't done very well. And the Jefferson boundary process is one.
As soon as we can open up that dialogue with our community, and Director Regan pointed it out, that the more often we do that, I think of our last bond. I mean, again, what we wound up with is values that were in conflict, and we wound up choosing, but because the community was part of that and got to engage in that discussion, they saw the trade-offs, and it wasn't perfect. Not everybody loved what we put forward, but obviously a majority of our community was able to support it, and so I'm really looking forward to
stakeholder engagement early and often. One of the criticisms that we've had over the past has been ideas already exist, and now we're going to go after the fact and present those to stakeholders and try to get feedback at that point. That doesn't work. During our Jefferson cluster enrollment conversation last year, that was a very clear message that community gave back to us, and I think it's really refreshing to hear. In fact, we have this intentional process, and it isn't a let's see what you think of this idea, which is oftentimes creates a process issue versus a content conversation.
One part of adaptability is going to be trust building, right, with these stakeholder groups, so that there's a conversation loop that's happening between the district and the board and the stakeholders and the public. So I think that's, wanting to establish that early on as a way of ongoing conversations, so that it's in a way that those values shifts are seamless as the community adapts. I think will be important to this process.
That's I think a great way to put that. Thank you.
We set out values, and then eventually two values come into conflict at some point, and you have to decide which one's going to trump which one.
When we really listen to the community and we engage the community and we do focus groups, is when I think that we have the most trust with the community.
While still looking through an equity lens to make sure one doesn't pick something that's going to wind up shortchanging somebody else.
Because just like when we did our long-range facilities plan, it's the ability to pull the community together in a process that they're familiar with that really adds credibility to the result in the end and allows the community to get behind that. Because they know that there's been a process and that we have followed that process. And I think it's helpful when we're trying to make these very difficult decisions, and when you have so many families who are so invested in their neighborhood schools and there can be changes there. And so those are huge decisions for us and very, very difficult for families, and we understand that.